Count in. Thank you.
That's what he was doing.
You're live.
Welcome back to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Poikinen. I am here in half burnout Boulder Creek, California. It has been a very quick hour since we were last with you. I do certainly hope that you were able to catch this morning's interview with the incredible Corey Morningstar. If not, and you're watching on Rockfin, we're going to have that uploaded here before too long, before the end of the day at least. For the meantime, it is over on D Live and also on that one Google platform. I am joined once again by my incredible co-host Glory Jones. What's good, Glory?
Ready to slew some bootlickers.
All right, man. And today, as I mentioned at the close of the show earlier, we're joined again. I think it's the first time that you've been on Slow News Day. But Alison Mason is a wonderful Julian Assange activist. She is part of the UK crew that's been holding it down over there for months and months and months and months and months. Joining us as well is Jill Everett from New York City. And holy crap, dude, what the fuck is going on with the UK right now?
It's bad, man.
Let's jump right the fuck into it. So yeah, dude, please let us know why is the United Kingdom gone fully fucking crazy in police state?
It's gone rogue all of a sudden. It's weird because when the first lockdown was on, it was like a ghost town in London, walking around, shops were shut and there's hardly anyone around. You almost see tumbleweed going through the streets of London in the city central area. And then you go to a place like Trafalgar Square and there were just like homeless people. You could see the numbers building by the day. And then the vans, food trucks coming in and, we used to do candles for Assange there, and we never used to see many homeless people around there at all. And then, boom, first lockdown, there's homeless people everywhere. And now there's just like absolutely probably increased by, 20, 30, 40, 50-fold. It's very hard to, calculate. But normal, like regular folk are actually walking around as if it isn't a lockdown. And there's no actual COVID police policing those people walking around. Not that I'm saying there should be, but when we have been doing our protest at Piccadilly Circus, which is a regular form, like we're doing that for 4 months, we switched from Trafalgar candles because it was cold then. Candles look good. Then we were just doing like the summertime protest was at the Statue of Love, Eros sculpture. And so that's why we switched locations. It's a real tourist spot kind of thing. And I don't know if I lost my train of thought there. People walking around now, no COVID police for them, but us, boom, they came in and it was entrapment. 2 little policemen were standing there waiting for us when we arrived, walked up to me and said, what are you guys doing here? All innocent. And I said, we're doing our regular gig, And they said, I said, we just put banners and blah, 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 and a static protest. He goes, that's okay. You set up your banners, you set up your placards, all good. Just don't go marching off anywhere, he said. And so we did so. Within, what do you reckon, Jill, 5 minutes later? 4 vans and a busload of cops came in. And before we knew it, there's like 30 cops all on us, just like trying to disperse us, which we tried to do. But you can't really fight them kind of thing. We gave Jill gave a really brilliant fight and I gave all my best. But as it turned out, they told us to do certain things, like go and get your dad, which was #Eric, Eric, our famous star.
We love Eric.
And, so they said, go and get your dad. I went, okay, I'll go and get dad. And I was walking off to go get dad, who'd followed Jill down after she'd been arrested, following her down to the truck. And then they said, no, take this banner down. So I began taking this banner down, and then immediately they just went boom. The senior constable said to the 2 juniors, who was obviously training, there's a hell of a lot of police here who have no training and no experience because Boris, they've put on all of these people that have had no experience at anything. If you want to be a cop, you can get a job straight away. Bam, straight away. So they have no idea what to do, how to arrest people, read rights, or anything like that. And as I was taking it down, the senior constable said to these two young recruits, arrest her. And they went, "What? We just told her to take a banner down. She's trying to do what we told her to do." And he went, "Do it now," like that. And that was it. Bam, I was gone. And then Jill can, no chance to.
And just a quick question. I'm sure you've answered this before, but I've just forgotten the answer. Do you guys have like any sort of like permits or pre-approval for these protests that you've been having?
Yeah, we have a permanent sort of, there's a process they introduced when the COVID lockdown laws, they changed protest laws to require you to get a risk assessment done on your protest. So you submit it to the local council. They kind of approve it and pass it on to the police. So, there's a process there. And the requirements state that you kind of have to do social distancing and take a first aid kit and hand sanitizer. They're the three things. And so we had that as a permanent thing. Like, that permit's been in for, ever since the lockdown kind of thing. And so, yeah, we've done all that. We had it.
I think it's important to understand a few things going on in government now, and also a few things about the situation in the UK in general, why it's kind of as it is now with the police. I think Alison knows this is true as well. We have this fantastic thing here called the NHS. So we've got this wonderful free healthcare. We pay like $250 a week or something. You pay to pay your national insurance contribution. So it's basically a very small fixed charge annually. And if you're unemployed or on a very low wage, you don't have to pay that. So it's great healthcare, and everybody's really proud of it. Of course, the government is trying to find ways how they can get rid of that and privatize it. But of course, the people are fanatical that that's not going to happen. It's all about save our NHS. And, it's the jewel in the crown. So what they've managed to do is to turn this onto save the NHS, stay at home. They're trying to make you guilty if you go out without a mask, or if you don't stay at home, like you're going to be overloading the hospitals and people are going to die because of you. But the fact is, there's test centers up and down the UK where people have done films where you can go and do a walk-in COVID tests, parking lots, everything. There's guards standing out there with all these lanes metered off, in case that there's this huge traffic jam. They've got all this traffic control in place. Nobody's there. These people go around every day and make films and post them online. There's nobody being tested. There's no queues. The hospitals aren't full. I know people that work in hospitals and are in the medical industry and have gone into the hospitals for something. And I had to go into the emergency room because of one of my police brutality injuries. And you see, there's nobody in there. You see, they created this whole floating hospital on the water on this boat right next to Canary Wharf, which is like the big financial district. They closed it down because there was no need for it. So there's all these conflicting messages, but as you know, it's this whole thing of turn us against each other. So they're making a big deal about wearing the masks all the time. Wear the mask, wear the mask. They're constantly bombarding you on the sidewalk with these stickers, stand 2 meters apart, and shaming you everywhere. If you don't wear a mask, some people are asking why. And of course, legally, you can't ask someone why they're not wearing a mask here, because they can have an exemption, or they can be a victim of sexual violence where somebody might have covered their mouth and that's a trauma trigger for them. So literally, you just can't do that. You can't ask. So that's part of it. People are being too compliant because they've been jollied into it. Today, there's this film that's come out in a hospital emergency room with all these people singing and dancing to some good time disco song from the 70s. And it's all about, we wash our hands every day, you know, we wear our masks this way. And, you know, and everybody's like, oh, okay, so that's why I can't get in to have a test, because they're all too busy making propaganda videos, you know, that are fun and, you know, keep everybody jolly so the spirits stay up, because they know that people are not going to take this much longer. I mean, every week there's protests. Every week the police are being told. Alison witnessed the conversation between a group of policemen when we were going out of the police station. They weren't on our case, and they were talking about how they're all coming into central London from the outer areas because they need so much protest police staff, because there's so many people going out into the streets, and they think they have to heavily police us. Even though we're all peaceful, they're still recruiting these police to do all this extra overtime.
The line went
to break down the opportunity for people to show their frustration and let other people know, you don't have to do this. We are not going to stay in lockdown. You're not going to continue ruining our businesses. There's so many small business owners and self-employed people who are, you know, just on their knees living in food banks, you know, because you can't get paid what you need to be paid to survive. And your business is probably closed, because who can afford to keep paying rent? So the protests, you know, are growing and growing and growing. And you've got the government in chaos. I don't know if you know, but Boris Johnson is letting go of a slew of these dim-witted cabinet members that he's had in place. So nothing's going right with this whole thing. And they're proving that the British Medical Journal yesterday published this whole thing about how the UK government has politicized the results, and this is not accurate. They're totally telling people wrong information. These are the doctors, British Medical Journal, saying this, that they can't stand behind what the government is saying. This is a huge, huge thing. So they had to put somebody's head rolling. So it was one of the health guys that went. And little by little, they're all going to start tumbling down. We were told the other day by the police, when I was giving them this question of why should we do this, because this is the law. I said, Priti Patel told you, the Home Secretary, that would be like the police boss. And I said, she announced to everyone that even during lockdown, you can go out and protest 2 people at a time. The police stood there and actually told us with a straight face, we don't listen to her. We just listen to the government rules. It's like, my God, do you even know who Priti Patel is? You know, she's like the one that made the rule.
She's the fucking shadow minister, right?
These cops don't know their own statutes.
She's the Home Secretary.
The Home Secretary, right.
The senior constables told her after the new lockdown rules, where she tried to quash the right to protest, but made an exception for 2 people. Like 2 people can go out and protest. The senior constables in the police force, who she called a meeting with, said that they thought it was an infringement of a breach of basic rights, to the right to protest. And so that was the senior constables of the police force line. But the conversation that I witnessed on my leaving the police office station was cops standing around having a chat with each other, you know, and they were saying, oh yeah, what shift are you doing that? You know, what, you know, oh, unlimited shifts there. They're trying to get as many people as they can to come in to put down protests. So if you need a job, you can go and get a job now in the police force. You can start work tomorrow, basically, without any training or anything. They just stick a uniform on you and boom, you're out there, because they just want as many as they can to be there to put them down. So they're really, really concerned, obviously, about people rising up. And
and they do the same thing. Like, it's funny because if you protest, at least where I am in LA, either in front of the sheriffs or the police, it's like you can literally look at their line and see them pointing out like, oh yeah, that one's mine. Oh, that one's mine. and then they'll like, whip out their little, sometimes they'll hit you with the little flashlight. So it's like you'll get one of those. And it's like they're essentially making a game out of this. And like what Jill said about like the lockdown, you're so like on point with that, because I think what people don't realize when they're being so complicit in all this stuff is that this is providing another smoke screen for the augmentation of the security state. Like,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, here in LA County, like, or in California in general, Gavin McFuckass or Gavin Newsom straight up tried to cancel Halloween and tried to like ban gatherings of more than 10 people. Our mayor of LA, Eric Garcetti, tried to do that. And because of that, the sheriffs arrested people for having a block party on Halloween, because that's what you're supposed to do when you have a holiday. So it's like, yeah.
My guests want to wave goodbye because they're bored now because they've got the headphones on.
Now, did somebody snitch on them about the Halloween party, or did the police find out about it themselves?
No, the police found out about it because what happens is there's a group called Dance for Black Lives, and it's a group of activists that just like every couple weeks they just go and they'll like shut down an intersection and have like a protest dance party because
nice.
Because like we need those events. We deal with like tons of stress from like organizing and like police brutality. So it's like every once in a while we have these like dance parties just to have some fun and decompress. And so of course we're going to celebrate Halloween with one. And so the sheriff showed up and arrested like 4 people when it started. So they had to relocate and everything. And like that, and it was all excused because of this like lockdown nonsense.
Yep. I mean,
Who's your friend, Allie? You're still muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, mate. What'd you say?
There you go.
My friend. Yeah. He's from China. Oh, sorry. And that was the California girl, the other girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So your flat
She's
is
a California
international hub for.
This is our bubble. No, we're the bubble. We're like we've been best friends for like ages, and we're a bubble. Yeah.
Oh.
So that's all good in the hood. Yeah. To have here, and there's only 4 of us, so it's all good. We haven't got any other hidden people, Gavin. No, not a soul. Okay.
My God. So one thing that you can't help but notice is the absolute lack of media attention, not just on these lockdown protests, but on the Assange protest, which you guys have been holding for quite some time now. And the deliberate ignoring of the huge amounts of attention, especially in the UK, that people recently started putting on Julian Assange's case. Like, it can't be unrelated that they're just deciding to break up break up your events and arrest you guys when there are so many other people who are out and who are in the street, and the only time that you see him in media is if David Icke turns up and they can point to him and be like, oh, look, it's a crazy person, so you should ignore the crazy person. And yeah, I'm not passing any judgments on David Icke whatsoever, man. I've learned a lot from that guy. I have. You know, but it sickens me that the rate at which the populace, not just in the UK, because it happened here as well, but the rate at which and the velocity at which their knees hit the ground for the establishment when they said, you know, put a mask on, stay in your home, don't hold any gatherings. No, you can't hug your loved ones. No, you can't your children can't go to school. They can't socialize. And people went, yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Crazy. Like, I've actually been in tears hearing some stories about children dying in hospital. You know, that there was a film of a doctor and his wife with a 4-year-old daughter, I think, was dying on some kind of life support system, and they were spending the last few hours with her, were removed by police in the actual intensive care ward, torn away, screaming, you know, from her, crying and screaming. And he was a doctor, the guy. And a 13-year-old boy who died without his parents, you know, after a long illness, whom they didn't allow to be with him. And funerals by remote Zoom, you know, conferences and all of that sort of stuff for close loved ones. But going back to the subject where you said they've kept Assange out of the media, we, at one of the Piccadilly Circus protests, they are concerned about convergence, okay? So they don't want this issue, which is actually emblematic of all of the issues that people are protesting about today. The, you know, imprisonment of Julian Assange is like an apex issue, right? He's the top of the tier there, because every single right that he ought to have has been, you know, taken away, and now it's a cascading effect down to the rest of the population, and they're all feeling it. So it is a pinnacle issue that relates to all of these other you know, freedom, you know, from tyranny and all of that, and the vaccine and all of everything, because it's enforced the technocracy, you know, and all of that. One protest we had a few weeks ago at Piccadilly Circus, the Freedom Unite UK were coming down from one of their vast numbers of these people they've had at the protest. They were coming down from one end, and so the marker between, say, Trafalgar Square, then there's Leicester Square, then there's Piccadilly Circus. The police actually did a line because they were walking towards Piccadilly Circus, towards us, these hundreds and hundreds of people. They did a police, what do you call that, blue line or whatever that people refer to it as, where they did basically blocked those protesters from coming to us. So they are well aware that they do not want convergence. That's the last thing they want, is for Julian Assange protesters and other groups of protesters who know Julian. Like, we were flyering at a David Icke event, not because David Icke was there, because there was 35,000 people there that we could give Assange flyers to. Yeah. So we got in trouble by some of the top tier people in the Assange campaign for daring to go to the crazy David Icke. You know, the reason why we went there wasn't to listen to David Icke in particular. It was to get in touch with 35,000 people for flyering for Julian Assange. Okay, no brainer there, as far as I'm concerned. But you wouldn't believe how many people did these funny little comments. Oh, you know, we're afraid. You shouldn't have done that. I block you now. You know.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't get that. I really don't get you, man. You know, I don't get you, because we need everyone. That's what we need, everyone.
We got backlash from crashing an Alex Jones event and flipping it into a Free Julian Assange rally.
Yes. Fantastic. Wow.
It was. It really was. It was phenomenal. Like, the whole night was just fucking wild. But yeah, I mean, after it had already happened, because we didn't announce that we were doing it, because we knew,
Yeah.
you know, that as soon as you say Alex Jones event, like, all of these alarm bells go off and people automatically want to put you into that box. And like, no, the reason we went, just as the reason you went to that protest, was to be able to connect with the people who were the attendees, not the speakers. But
hello, every single person we gave a flyer to was like, yeah, we know Assange, yeah, we support you.
Yes.
You know, whereas the general public don't even know who Assange is. This is why we do the outreach, okay? Not on MSM. They'll never do the story. Barely did the court report, right, from the hearing.
Barely.
So our philosophy is we need to go out there. You know, motivation is to talk one by one on a person-to-person basis with every single damn person we can get on the street to start understanding the issue. Yeah, because we can't get it on mainstream media. That's not the way. It's not going to be. The revolution won't be televised. Yeah. He's not going to be on TV, you know? It's going to be going out there person by person. And the last cab, last door, you can't even go out in, you know, and do a regular gig doing a person by person. That's a hard job, you know, person by person. One by one, they walk past. One by one activation, one by one engagement, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's tedious to go like one person by one person by one person by one person. Like maybe if you want to get a little spicy, you can have a group of like 2 or 3 people and talk to them at the same time. Like it's tedious and you're going to run into like assholes that way. But I mean, it's like it's necessary and like I've had genuinely good conversations with people one-to-one, either people telling me like, oh yeah, man, I love Assange. And I'm like, okay, we need you to put your foot on the gas and not rely on Daddy Trump or trust the plan or any on this shit. Like, or you know, on the other side, it's people who, you know, genuinely think that they're for accountability or they're anti-establishment and they don't know who Assange is. And I run into people like that and they're like, wow, like, thanks for telling me. I'm going to go tell more people that. And it's like, good stuff to do, and I don't know why people keep discouraging people from doing that.
Generally, young people may not even know because they weren't even born then. Yeah, so you got to start from scratch. But they are, you know, they're early adopters. They get it. They get it straight away. You know, they get the story. You have to tell the story. And some people, no name recognition factor whatsoever. So we're like billboards ourselves because we need to put the brand, the name recognition factor, and then the story behind it. And so it doesn't matter if it's not on TV or whatever. You know, we've got to do it on a person by person basis. And you know, like we like doing it. You know, we have fun doing it. You know, after last night, we went off singing up at Chinatown. You know, so and we just turned. I was just singing like, you know, in an alleyway as a group. You know, with Eric, he was there too. We're having noodles and dumplings and what have you as well. But in Chinatown, and that was fun. David Bowie and John Lennon, and yeah, just. But you got to make it fun. So, you know, they're even like, we're like Jehovah's Witnesses now, mate, because we can only go out in groups of 2. And we're even thinking, knock, knock, knock. Who's there? Oh, hello, madam. Have you heard about Julian Assange?
Please tell me that you don't have like matching blue coats when you go do that.
We're gonna get
shade of Mormon blue is. It's like the most naturally repellent color on the planet, and I don't know why they decided to run with that.
It's like that polyester blue color, right? It's like it's kind of bright.
It's like shiny, but at the same time, it's fuzzy. Yeah, a little out of focus. Yeah,
rayon.
But I think the thing about you know, Assange and the protesters and like what we're experiencing is really just an interesting parallel of, you know, what Julian Assange had experience of being denied his rights and his freedoms and the police brutality and all of those things as well. Because yes, you know, if you think about it, Julian Assange is, and even though it doesn't seem so because he's in a prison at the moment, he's probably the most powerful man in the world because he has everybody's information. And those people know the information that he has, it can go out at any moment. I mean, who knows what the arrangement is in terms of where the information is, what the trigger is, who makes those decisions. But all of those whistleblowers that have given all of that information that has not even been published yet, you know, that's stuff that those powerful people don't want to get out. I mean, can you imagine if they were active now in the same way that they were 10 years ago? I mean, now we would actually know what's going on. We would have, you know, we would know what's going on and we could break this all up more easily. The whole thing of, you know, Julian's goal in it is we try and explain to people is his line about creating a modern library so that it's for all of us to have the information that shows us where the power resides, so that we can understand how the world works. And all of us, the majority, the 99%, we can make the change that we want to see, because now we understand who has the power, where is the power. So he's wanting to give us all this information. So of course those people have opposed him the whole time. We're trying to do the same thing with the general public. We're trying to give them this information to empower them and saying, look, I know this really sounds horrible. It's not what you want to hear, that this is the real reality of how it is, but here's where the power resides. This is all a facade that they're telling you this. And people have a real hard time denying what the fairy tale that they've believed all their life. They don't want to hear this bad news. They want to think that whoever they elect is just going to be a good guy, and it's all good, and there were no war crimes, and the Hillary Clinton is an honest woman that all women should vote for.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
if we don't vote for Hillary Clinton, there's something wrong with us. You know, they talk about Joe Biden as Uncle Joe. Oh, he's such a nice guy. That, you know, they don't look at voting records. They don't look at bills that people have sponsored. The public, until there's a bomb and everybody's in emergency state, many of those people will never think that they have to get active and make a change to do something differently. So when you're showing people dissent by being in the streets, the police don't like it. So they don't want us to be liberating anyone. They want to stop us from doing that. And the fact that we're connected to Assange and they know what our mandate is, what our goals are. You know, they're trying to shut us down, and they are able to get more and more violent and get away with it because they're being told to do it. So we are telling them, this is like the Nazis. You know, you're going to be on the trial after this is all over for crimes against humanity, for the things that you do to the citizens, physically violent, but also for what they've stolen from us in all of these rights and these liberties that they're trying to take away from us now, and how many people have lost their livelihoods and have really bad times.
Yeah.
There's a lot to kind of unpack and respond to there.
We need to educate the police too.
No, I guess not. Okay. One of the things that I want to discuss while we're all here is this idea in some of the higher up circles of activism that there ought to be rules and parameters put around outreach. I have a very visceral reaction to that notion, and it's, you know, I'm gonna go talk to who the fuck I want to talk to. You
Exactamente.
aren't making any headway by being siloed through fucking social media algorithms and only talking to people who already agree with you. If you don't put yourself in uncomfortable situations, talking to people who may be opposed to what it is that you're trying to educate them on, you are never, ever, ever going to break through, and you are never going to be able to go anywhere with your activism. So why the fuck would you suggest not going out and talking to people? It doesn't make any goddamn sense to me.
Doesn't make sense at all. It's very frustrating. You know, there's controlled opposition within the ranks, and yeah, you're right. Some of it's in our own echo chamber. A lot of it's in our own echo chamber. You know, I didn't take too kindly to getting blocked by these people that, you know, so-called, you know, scions of the game. But I have decided that I'm not going to let it affect me. I don't have that kind of personality where I'm really, really bullshit, but I freaking well am now. It made me realize it was good because it was like consciousness raising for me to realize there the enemy is in your own camp trying to put a lid on you, yeah, trying to stop you from doing what's true good, and you're coming from a good place and a good purpose, and it's all for Jay. So yeah, I totally, agree with you, Steve. Totally agree. We need to be creative, as Jill said, and use all ways that we can to reach people. And we're, doing a Twitter storm. Hello, come on. That's never going to. Well, that's a good idea. Now that we're in lockdown, let's do a Twitter storm. We can all concentrate our activities on doing a Twitter storm one night. That's going to really work.
On a platform where maybe 3% of the total population is. Maybe 3%. Like, you're not reaching the people that you need to reach just by being on social media.
And
you're not.
Have never worked in the last 6 months. They've all been rigged against you. Anyway, the hashtag Julian Assange, well, you're limited straight away. It's just, like if you don't realize that doesn't work, then sorry,
the thing that bothers me ultimately about it is the people who know better, who
I agree.
have
Yes.
lived much longer than me and know better are because of something like politics, like are trying to be the arbiter of your speech while at the same time trying to defend free speech broadly. Like it's a contradiction that I can't wrap my head around.
Well, and it's like there's no one way with activism that's just so supreme to everything, and it's like written in the stars. A wise man once said that nonconformity is the only real passion worth being ruled by. And like I try to take that to heart when I just say like fuck any gatekeeping that wants to come my way.
Absolutely.
It's like Steve, I basically have the same views as Steve on this. It's like you're getting called immature by a 20-year-old. Like that's what's happening. If you won't go and talk to that Trump supporter, then you're going to get called out by someone who's probably half your age for being immature, because it's just coming from a standpoint of like, we need to get the word out by any means necessary, because we don't have the time to go hunting for every sect of people that we can find. Like Julian doesn't have the time. We need to be able to see who's ever in front of us and go and talk to that person and spread the word now.
Yes, and I think that we've had a lot of different ideas and plans, like what we want to do to make things to reach more people, basically, with the message. And one of the things we came up with, Alison had a great idea about a billboard. Billboards are a great idea to bring awareness to Julian Assange, and
not an original idea, I might add.
But still, to come up with some kind of slogan that supports what our goal would be, whether it's awareness or it's a letter writing campaign to your MP, as far as for the Americans, to get them to get their local congressperson to sponsor Tulsi Gabbard's bill, bipartisan bill, that they could get a whistleblower protection law, and they could get Assange and Snowden completely pardoned, drop all charges. So I mean, talking about those kind of people, getting the American activism going in terms of like, I don't know what you guys are finding is the likelihood for Tulsi's bill, because will it go through the House? Does it have enough sponsors? No,
it will. So back in 2015, when Tulsi resigned as vice chair of the DNC, citing the debate schedule as her primary reason for leaving the DNC, the Democratic Party made her public enemy number one.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And that hasn't gone away. Like she'll
never be forgiven.
No. Her original and ultimate sin was telling on Mother, and ever since then. I'm going to
Yeah,
say real quick, ever since then, every piece of legislation she's introduced, no matter how competent or sane or necessary, has died before it even made it to committee. And that's 100% on purpose. And no, they're not perfect bills, but a simple House resolution calling to drop the charges against Julian Assange and against Edward Snowden, to pardon Edward Snowden, and to reform, not eliminate, but tweak a little bit the Espionage Act, which has only been weaponized politically, only in ever and at its inception, that was its intent, was to be used as a political weapon. These things are seen as I I don't know, like trying to pick up a poisonous snake that is also made out of fire, but also made out of metal spikes.
Okay.
And that's the general treatment that she's received by the Democrats and a certain section of like the John McCain Republicans and whatnot. So I don't hold out any hope whatsoever that those bills will even make it to the House floor or make it to a debate. I'm cynical, I hope they do. And we have a call to action up on Action for Assange's website right now with every or a way to find your Congress critters or your senators, numbers. And we've got the link up, and we've got the call to action up to do just that. Hit these people up, flood them with calls, texts, and letters, knowing that this thing is doomed on arrival. But we've got to go ahead and try anyway, because if we don't, then we're no fucking better than anybody in the media who's refused to cover this subject because it might hurt their bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, it is shocking. And The Guardian here, as you know, is complicit in so many different ways. I mean, first of all, Luke Harding still works there. So we had an action in front of The Guardian about a month ago, and none of the journalists came out. Nobody was interested in reporting on it. Nobody was interested in talking to us about it. And they had somebody from The Guardian at the courts, I think probably like 3 times a week. Somebody was making a report in the paper. It was very small column inches. It wasn't like there was a big report. In everything they wrote, it was kind of slanted against Julian rather than being completely neutral or completely against him. It was just kind of like, it wasn't in a positive, encouraging way. It was just quite factual, the very bare minimum. Well, if you go through The Guardian's archives and look over the years, how much has been written about him and what's been written, a few people in the activists, that are working for Assange to bring any kinds of message out that we can. Part of the work is, as you probably know, these smear campaigns and trying to get The Guardian to correct the record years later when they know things that they have written are still in there. So like if you wanted to go in and read an archive story, they haven't even corrected that there's no charges in Sweden, for example. So you have to write and write and write and write letters just begging them to change that. They won't print an apology like on the page and say what they said was wrong. It's only like if somebody was wanting to go back several years and go to one of those old articles that they would see it's changed now. But other than that, they're not going to announce it. So my idea was, I don't know if you saw John Pilger's article a few years ago, Dump the Guardian, a few months ago, I think it was, Dump the Guardian. He had 54 articles with inaccuracies that the Guardian wrote. And I thought, wouldn't it be great just to do a billboard and say The Guardian is not real news. It is not a trustworthy newspaper. 54 articles that were all false news with incorrect information about Julian Assange, and The Guardian has retracted all of these mistakes, just to put it right out in front of The Guardian's office, as well as other strategic locations around London, to start letting people know that what they have read, these smear campaigns, you can't believe it just because it's in the newspaper.
And that's one of the things that frustrates me so much, because and I don't know, I can't speak to how it is in the UK, but at least here, it's something like 85% of the country doesn't trust mainstream news, but they can't turn it off. They can't look away from it. And we've got people who are walking around 50% right all the time, where they know that a certain like kind of news outlet is just 100% bullshit and agenda driven, and yet they believe that even though the same corporate structure and the same advertisers spend money on their news outlet, that their news outlet is the beacon of truth and righteousness in the world. And look, man, 50% isn't a passing grade anywhere.
I wouldn't say. I would say there would be a bigger figure here. I would say that what has happened is the complete shutting down of everything, and most people are in zombie-like status with looking at the TV and just getting constant messaging of COVID fear porn and no actual news. And then the game, the two-headed party system game, the binary, vote this way or that way, or here's my man, the ball game, Trump's my man, or Biden's, or Uncle Joe. It's that same thing here, and no actual real news, no factual, unless you're an alt media, you won't get anything factual. And those people in lockdown are quite happy to be there, listening to the BBC, the biggest propaganda unit under the sun, since time immemorial, the biggest propaganda, station
that doesn't
over the
have
world.
to register as state media.
No.
That is funny,
So,
isn't it? Yeah.
We're battling, such huge forces where, it's ridiculous now. If we could hack a TV system somehow, that would probably be the best solution to it.
Slow News Day is not suggesting that. Don't take us off the air.
That was a joke, Kevin. Mike. Big Mike. It's the satanic blob of jelly. That was a joke. All right? That was a joke. No, there's zombies here, mate. They really are. Zombie land. Yeah, people, you can hear it, man. You can hear it. The absolute propaganda just booming out of houses. They're happy to stay home and listen to this shit. It's very hard to get through.
When we went, we had about 3 months of actual lockdown here, towards the end of March, leading right up to the George Floyd protests. But that 3 month period, I did more shows than I ever have. I don't even know if I turned on the news once. I would get the majority of just the raw information about what was happening from COVID through like Last American Vagabond and Jason Burmis, because they don't spin it. They will tell you their opinion, but they will just show you the actual hard data, and then you get to make up your own mind. That's what drew me to WikiLeaks in the first place, is because it was presented without a spin or without a multimillionaire telling me how I should think and feel about it. And I constantly struggle with trying to understand the allure of giving away your ability to think for yourself.
I've got a friend who's a gardener, and she has a list of clients that are fairly, middle-aged, older women say, and so that's a profession you can still do now, gardening in someone's backyard, as long as you don't walk through their house to get there. That was one of the problems, if they were men, they used to hide in the bathroom while she made her way to the back garden to do the gardening. But she said in every single damn case, they got the BBC turned up full bore. That's what you literally can't walk down the street. You can hear it when you're walking down the street. Talk about propaganda. I haven't listened to TV for 10 years, man. I called YouTube TV,
Oh, yeah.
I haven't actually been, like, when I say, I saw that on TV the other day, I'm talking about, I saw, a podcast or something like that. But you can literally hear it coming out of the houses. You don't have to actually have a TV set to be propagandized by TV these days, That's how zombie-like people are. It's ridiculous.
I haven't owned a working television that was connected to cable or anything like that since Bill Clinton was president. That's not true. For a month, I got cable in 2016 when the Cubs were in the playoffs and it looked like they might win the World Series. So I got
worth it.
I got a free trial. I got a 30-day trial. About halfway
and
through
then returned
October,
it,
and then immediately shut it off.
Yes.
I did two things the day after the Cubs won the World Series. I quit.
System.
Huh?
Work the system.
Yeah,
Return it after 30 days.
Yeah, dude. I canceled the television that immediately after the Cubs won. I canceled the television and I quit drinking. And fucking they remain two of my better decisions over the last 10 years, but my dad only got cable because of WGN and the ability to watch Cubs games sitting on his couch in central Indiana, because you couldn't do that otherwise, and so I guess that shit, I'm adopted, but I guess it runs in the family to where you get TV long enough to watch the Cubs for a little bit and then get rid of it. Although in their case, they didn't get rid of it. They kept it. But fuck, dude. You're right, though, man. Look, I live in the middle of fucking nowhere, but when I have to go into Santa Cruz, just driving around downtown Santa Cruz, you are constantly being bombarded with propaganda, mostly of the DNC variety and mostly of the, oh, don't worry, Joe Biden will save us variety.
Oh.
It's pouring out of every fucking window and out of, it's just fucking insane to me why anyone would think or allow themselves to be convinced of the idea that a serial, historical, fucking criminal segregationist madman that now has instant grits for brains is somehow going to be different, when in his own words he told a room full of billionaires that nothing would fundamentally change if you elected him. Oh, things are going to fundamentally change. We're going to stomp on the gas pedal towards an accelerated, as Whitney Webb calls it, technocratic panopticon. And it's up to it's up to us. It's fucking 42-year-old stoner fuck in the middle of the woods. Is merry band of freaks to put a stop to this shit.
It's so funny, but it is absolutely the truth. It is a grassroots movement. I mean, I really give Bernie Sanders credit because, okay, he's let us all down now, but he woke up half the country in 2016 with telling them, don't listen to what I tell you, don't listen to what other people tell you, go out and find it for yourself. And he told everybody, get out there and run for office. You can be in charge of your local town, city council. You can run for local mayor. You can run for school board. You can run for senator. You can run for House of Representatives. He woke people up that they have to get involved. They have to get involved because you're not going to find out about things through the media. Mainstream media is never going to tell you. Look at with Bernie, the same thing. They blacked him out. 2016, nobody would talk about him. It was all just about Hillary and the horrors of Trump. And that was it. So I agree. You have to start with the little merry band of stoners in the woods. And, you know, if everybody has their band of people, all of those people will tell somebody, and all of those people will tell somebody, and it will grow in a grassroots way. And people will have businesses that can support each other, and people will be more sustainable. So we don't all have to work for big corporations. We have to stay smaller and become independent and sustainable, so that we have our own earth ships, so that if the stuff really does hit the fan, we're going to be able to still survive.
It's so weird that you bring up Earth ships, because I'm currently like in an ongoing conversation with one of our co-hosts on the Free Assange Vigil about, like, fuck it, we're just gonna grab a little patch of dirt somewhere and fucking and she had brought up Earth ships a number of times for that. But I'd like we would joke about like the Slow News Day commune thing, but that shit's probably going to be a reality sooner than later. And I don't know. It almost seems like abandoning people, but at the same time, you've got to do something to where you're not just walking around, I guess, with a constant target on you, or in a large population center where at any moment, because of the specter of COVID, you could be put immediately on lockdown, or your travel could be limited to whether or not you let someone poke you with an untested vaccine. Yep. Or the shit that they're rolling out right now.
But this is why we need Julian out more than ever. We need to find out what the hell's going on, expose it all for the fraud that it is, and help to peel away some of the layers, get rid of some of these people, and wake up the people that are believing what they're hearing of this propaganda. Julian's got to get some documents out there.
Well, and I mean, it's as good a point or good a time as any to mention that you can still right now at this very moment submit documentation to WikiLeaks. They are still operating. They are still functional. Christian Ramsden stepped in as editor-in-chief. They released the fish rot docs in 2018. They released the OPCW leaks about a year ago. You still can, like, the ability
maybe
to do
we
that
should
is
make
there.
that a big mission statement to remind whistleblowers now that you can still submit.
Yeah, because you sure as shit can't go to The Intercept.
Nope.
You sure as shit can't go to the Washington Post. If you're in Australia and you go to their ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Company, not only do you get arrested, but the journalist who wrote the report gets arrested, and everybody's computers get raided, everybody's information gets taken and becomes part of the state apparatus. Like, we have to have a functioning, fully operational, with Julian Assange at the helm of it, WikiLeaks. We would be so much better served. This is an opinion. I can't prove it, but we would be so much better served if we had Julian Assange during COVID or during the 2020 election. Especially with all of this great reset bullshit going on and this fourth industrial revolution. Like, the amount of information that exists about a demon like Klaus Schwab, I imagine, is substantial. We should be able to have access to that, because the regular everyday people should have privacy. The insanely powerful should have transparency. And
did you see the picture? Did you see the picture of Klaus Schwab in that Star Trek type of jacket thing that he had on? No, it was like the Star Trek jacket that had the points coming up at the side.
Oh,
And it was
geez.
quilted with the, like a spaceshipy kind of jacket, like a Starship Enterprise captain type jacket. And that was real, man. That was freaking real. and I was like, everything is so in your face, but these people just don't see it. It's ridiculous. It's like the biggest mindfuck, I think, in history ever. Yeah. And one way that I would like to tackle it is to, this protest rule, which is a fundamental human right, is really entrenched in. I mean, in Australia, they had to. I don't know if you know that Bob Brown, he was a famous senator in Australia, okay? And he was a Green Party senator from Tasmania, and he was the one that stopped the damming of the Franklin River, which was a huge thing in this campaign. That he got arrested, and as a senator or a member of parliament, you can't have any legal arrest and be, convicted of anything. So he stood down from the parliament and someone took his place. He ended up winning a high court challenge against his arrest for the right to protest. It set a precedent for the right to protest because Australia doesn't have a Bill of Rights or anything like that. So it didn't have it. So it's sort of like enshrined by this precedent now, the right to protest. But it's all been removed everywhere. It doesn't matter if you got in the Constitution. It doesn't matter if you got, if it's you got the oldest Constitution and, whatever in history, you can't do it. So who is at the pinnacle of our protest? Julian Assange. Who is this affecting most? Everybody in the world, because, and he is at the pinnacle. We need to challenge his laws, and guess who we're doing it for? Yeah. And that is, we're getting lawyers to do it. We're going to, it might sound like pipe dream, but there are people there who want to do it. And so I think that's the only thing that's going to bring it home for us, if we can, really kind of assert some judicial power, because, let's face it, his lawyers are, so occupied in so many countries on so many fronts. The litigation is insane. It's up to us now, and we can do it on this level on his behalf, but not in his name. Do you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have to be the litigant,
Right.
like he does in all of the other cases. We the people are. Yeah, we the people are. The reason why we're doing it is because we need our freedoms back. And the right to protest. So that is one avenue that we're actually researching at the moment. And we have some lawyers who apparently are chomping at the bit to do it, because
that's awesome.
they got schmarts, and they are ready to go. They're ready to go. So watch out, police state. Watch out.
Well,
yes.
For this case to just still be a thing, still even be in a consideration after just what a complete chump show the prosecution was, and just how utterly incompetent and awful these douche cunts were. For this to even be a case with something like Lady Arbuthnot supervising it being tied to literally people that Julian exposed, and having her concierge, Vanessa Breitzer, now overseeing the case, with all this conflict of interest coming from the judges, and just the sheer dumbassity of the prosecution, for this to still be a case really tells you that there's not much that Julian's legal team can do. It's up to us, because his defense kicked ass. Like, that any sane person, if it was actually open to the public, like it should be in these two powerhouse democracies, if this case was actually open to the public and any reasonable person read this, they'd be like, "Yo, shit, bruh, prosecution got their ass kicked. Why is this still a case, man? Call it now." And it's like, from that standpoint, it's really up to us, because I just don't have hope that, these two democratic institutions are going to save us in this.
Well, see, that is the thing. I can't believe on January 4th, when they announced, after we heard in court on that last Thursday from the Spanish security firm that he was cheated of his right to attorney-client privilege. I mean, it should have just closed the case then. There are so many irregularities. Now, I can't believe that the UK is willing to go down into the Banana Republic category now by saying that they're not ruling for Julian. I can't
The UK
believe.
is the original evil empire, and they
Yeah,
will do
but
it.
they are never
They will do it.
exposed so obviously doing it like now.
So the public is blind to everything that's going on. You got a hell of a lot of zombies out there, and they don't know what's going on. It will pass. They will make that decision. It will barely be reported, and he could be renditioned to a dark prison in America. Before you know it, it could be snap.
It does, though. It speaks to the level of fear and the level of actualized or realized like guilt, I guess, that some of these people, at least the ones that are in positions of perceived power, if not positions of real power, have, because if their shit was working, Julian Assange wouldn't be locked up. He would have just been entirely ignored. But the simple fact of the matter is their facade collapsed. The entire empire showed its whole ass, and now everybody has the ability to see it. So everything that's happened since, especially in the US, with the removal of habeas corpus, with the Smith Modernization Act, which allowed for outright propaganda to be showered over the airwaves, with the 2020 NDAA, with that paper that cites that hacktivists, leaktivists, and public disclosure outlets are now on par with ISIS and al-Nusra and Hamas. Like, these steps, and I'll include the Great Reset in that, and I'll include all of the COVID lockdown measures in that. These are steps that an empire in free fall takes because they are desperate to hold on to their power and their wealth. So in a sense, we have these fucks on their heels.
We got them on the ropes. We have got them on the ropes. And that's why all of the absolute evil deeds they have done in Abu Ghraib, in Guantanamo, and in the Middle East, everywhere, and all of the illegal wars and everything is the thing that Julian wanted to expose. And that's our job, to expose it. Yeah. The Gitmo suit actions, the pictures of the absolute horrific abuse is what people need to see to realize who their enemy is and to wake the fuck up. It sounds horrific, but that's what we're doing. That's what we need to do. Projecting collateral murder in public. Yeah, the zombies, they like a bit of TV, they see it projected on the wall, and then they realize what it is. And then you tell a little bit of the story, and they go, it starts to sort of get there in the cognition. And that is why they didn't let Khaled al-Masri speak in the trial, in the hearing. Yeah? No. Yeah. And that's why they didn't report any of it. Yeah? And Mike Pompeo still comes out and makes his stupid
glitch.
Can I tell you how fucking cool it was? Sorry, Josh, go ahead.
I was just going to say tech glitch my ass on that one. On the
I know. I was in the courtroom that day. I was supposed to be in there to see him, and I got in because there were 2 seats available. Can you believe it? And you could go in the afternoon or the morning session, and one of us would get there at 6 a.m. to get one of the 2 seats, and we'd get the other 2 would be, or 2 or 3 that they were holding for the Australia Embassy, that the Australia Embassy never showed up for. At some point, they would let go of those 3 seats, and then we would have journalists or whoever, independent media people, we could put in there. But I was in there that day. They were having the technical problems. It was so disappointed because I thought we were going to get that. But, the whole thing of Julian saying, of course you're not going to take away the chance to testify, a man that's been tortured like this. Oh, no, they don't want it. Just read a few sentences off the paper. And then Baratzer stopped him and said something like, okay, that's enough. I don't have to hear any more. Oh, no, we want you to hear more. But they wouldn't let that even be, the full statement couldn't even be read in court.
Yeah.
That's
I was
so
catching
powerful.
I was catching the train home one day with 2 of the crew, and we were loaded up with all the stuff that we used to take there to do the vigil and outside the court. And we were on a train. And the guy got on with his bicycle, and he was a sort of a lawyerly type, but biker and bicycler and cyclist. Sorry. And he said, "Oh, what have you been doing?" We said, "Oh, yeah, Julian Assange." He was like, "Oh, where's he being tried?" And I said, "Oh, Bailey." He was, "Oh, yeah, okay." He said, I was actually involved in the planning of the building of Belmarsh and Woolwich Crown Court, where the first part in February was held. And he said the actual Old Bailey, which is now called the Central Criminal Court, was supposed to be moved lock, stock and barrel to Woolwich and the Belmarsh and the Woolwich Crown Court, right? But do you know why it wasn't? I said, no. He said, because the judges there have an underground cellar. They have a cellar, a wine cellar, and they would not, they objected to moving the Old Bailey to Woolwich, 7 miles away, and it's in like Dirtsville, right out there in Gimpland. And because they didn't want to give up their wine cellar. This dude, he wasn't like a random that was just making shit up, okay? This guy was, you could tell he was a lawyer. He goes, "What stop are you getting off at?" And I told him what stop I was getting off. And he said, "A pity you can't stay a few more stations. I've got heaps of dirt to say." And at that point, one of my friends dragged me up the open doors, and I was like, ah, as the train departed, because I was like, this guy, I didn't have a chance to exchange numbers or phone cards. But one other thing he did say, because I was saying, about how the sound was very bad, the audio initial, throughout the whole thing, the feed, everything like that. He said, "Oh, Old Bailey's always been very bad. It's renowned for having very bad audio and for them never fixing it up." So that is a design feature of the Old Bailey as well. A deliberate design feature of them. That court.
I'm just so enjoying hearing about the incredible, fair and equitable processes of justice in one of the world's most powerhouse democracies to exist. It's really inspiring and touching.
Man, the fact that they wouldn't move because of their darling wine cellar makes the opening scene to V for Vendetta seem all the more necessary right now.
It is so true, yeah. And I went there twice and smudged the joint, okay? A week before the hearing, I went out, I got a dirty, great big fuck off smudge stick. It was about like a 10-inch one, and or 12, yeah. I got the smudge stick, right? And my friend, and we walked around the whole perimeter of that building, sticking it underneath the doorways. There's, you get a little bit of a gap here and there, the air conditioning vents, any vents anywhere, alleyways behind where there was a roller door, everywhere. Went around the whole perimeter of it. Man, that thing was just going like blazes. Anyway, my friend had a little sign, little Julian Assange laminated sign that big. And I said, "Oh, let's get a picture of you and me underneath that big ornate sign. It says about saving children and all that bullshit." And I had the smudge stick pictures like that, and she had a little sign next to me. Do you know what? The little circuit man, called the cops on us. Not for the smudge stick, though, which I thought, actually, in my back of my mind, I was going, maybe I'll get arrested for having an incendiary device, and I'll say, I was trying to smudge the evil out of the Central Criminal Court, and I'll actually be on the Sun or the Mirror front page, woman with a smudge stick, for Julian Assange kind of thing. And no, the cops were only interested in my friend and her sign because they thought perhaps she might try to apply it to the outside of the wall, which she had no intention of doing and never did. Went anywhere near the wall, just in front of a body like that. Police came. So I said to the guy, I said to the copper, I said, "You want me to kneel down? You could put your little knee on my neck and, that what you want to do?" Like, I was on you. But this thing was going, smoking out this whole little sort of area where these people were having lunch on the other side of the road. And there was just so much smoke. And I was talking to the cop the whole time where it was just going, choof, 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 choof. He said nothing about the stick. Nothing. So I did, and then another time, I went back with another one just before. Actually, the day off, one of the days off.
Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course. And I had another go as well. So I tried my best, with the smudge. But yeah, it is evil. It is really the heart of evil. Literally, they're hanging people on the other side of the road. People are sitting in a pub eating their pie and mash, watching the hangings. Yeah, the olden days when they, you got tried there, drag you out, put you in the, stocks of the hang you, guillotine, whatever they did. I think it was hanging mainly. People were in a pub eating their dinner, like pie and mash, watching this shit,
Public
and there's
hangings
literally bodies.
Public hangings used to be one of the largest and most well-attended gatherings in fucking, not just in London, but I mean here. My grandfather remembered going to a hanging when he was like 8, and he was born in 1919.
Whoa!
I don't know when they officially like shifted from, but yeah, he told me about it at least once. He attended a pub. Now he grew up in Sparta, Tennessee, and I'm not entirely sure where, like, if that was in Sparta or if it was they had to like drive to Nashville or something like that. But you could at least, as late as the mid-20s, you could go to a public hanging here. Which I guess is slightly less than 100 years ago, and now people would go
augmented reality hanging.
Yeah, people would go apeshit for it though. Like, can you, as desensitized and fucking closed off from any sort of semblance of humanity as most people have been programmed to become? Oh my god! Like, you could pack. Well, you could easily pack stadiums for a handful of public hangings.
The Coliseum.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's hundreds of bodies buried under there as well. And it did actually suck in the doorways and the little vents everywhere, sucked that smoke in like you wouldn't believe. It just was, amazing.
That's awesome. I was joking that we should smudge out our Airbnb when we got to DC again. You want to talk about concentrated evil, man. Like, every time I approach Washington, D.C., it just kind of clench up a little bit. I'm like, holy fuck, dude. It's the heart of the new Roman Empire, and I'm walking right into it. Like, oh, this is going to be fun. I hate DC so much. And it's just so in your face with...
You can feel it.
Like, you're supposed to feel like a subject when you're there, like that's the overall tone that the architecture itself sets. And I'm not anybody's subject. I'm not. So yeah, dude, like, being there is just so fucking weird for me. It really is. I don't know how I would act in front of the Old Bailey. I really don't.
I couldn't go in, Steve. I couldn't go into the courtroom. It's just too scary. Very, very scary.
It was very unpleasant.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said it was very unpleasant. I went for that one session, and it's really hard to watch, like how flippant they all are about the process and that they're dealing with him, and how the judge, when he would say something, would just tell him, like, I heard you the first time or something, and sort of shout at him. And, he's in a glass box, not even allowed to talk with his lawyer like a normal person in court would be. And to me, it just seems very strange as well, because I don't think there's any courts in the States that we have. Are there, where there's cases without a jury?
Yeah. Well, yeah, yes and no. We've got a kind of, like, if you go in for like drug court, often, unless you're pleading not guilty and it goes to jury, then there's no jury.
But that's you playing that way. But I mean, like, if you're saying not guilty, she's the judge that gets to make the decision herself, and it berates her. Where I would think every court case where somebody pleads not guilty, they should have a jury.
Yeah, I agree. The way that they set up magistrates court specifically for extradition seems particularly unsound, you know, because
Seems a bit samsy, doesn't it?
it really does.
Yeah,
I
sort
mean,
of like a CIA court, really, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We were joking that like actual kangaroos would be more fair and impartial, but when you've got a judge who is by any metric like compromised to rule on the side of the state, and there's no jury there to act as a buffer between the defendant and their
Yes.
fate, then you're not going to have anything approaching justice.
Exactly. And of course, with the jury system, each set of lawyers gets to choose their jurors. And if I'm not mistaken, the other set of lawyers has to approve them as well, don't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah, and
Yeah, so
I'm seeing in
everybody
the chat here
agrees.
real quick, Jill, that FISA court is without a jury. The FISA courts don't have a jury.
What does a FISA court do?
It issues surveillance warrants
Ah,
or approves surveillance. Somebody will put in the title of the full acronym there. I can't remember it off of the top of my head. But yeah, there are a couple of like governmental courts that don't utilize the jury process, and
they do have a new role too, don't they? The FISA courts, they have a new role, vaccination.
Hugely expanded. Yeah, the ability.
They do vaccinations now, forced vaccination. Yeah,
Are they? That's new to me.
that was a joke. FISA.
Okay, I mean, might as well be at this point.
The
Fuck
fact
it,
that we thought it was real.
I mean, that's the fucking cartoon that we're
it's
living in right now.
believable. That's the sad part.
Yeah, like there's hardly a need for the Onion anymore. Although I am kind of like frequently grateful to their headlines. Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act is the acronym for FISA, but it applies both internationally and domestically as to who can be spied on, you know, legally, and to what extent. They played a pretty significant role in the spying on of Donald Trump in the 2016 election. Definitely during the GOP primary and going into the general. And what the FISA court what the law says now, and what the FISA court approved is like a 2-hop system of surveillance. So if you are granted a FISA warrant to let's say surveil Allie, then not only do you get permission to surveil Allie, but everyone that she talks to and everyone that they talk to. And this is all within quote unquote the law. But it is again, like that's a 2-hop step of surveillance. So it's not just, okay, Allie calls me and now my calls are being monitored, but everyone that I talk to from that point forward is now being monitored and recorded. And that's perfectly legal.
Incredible what they get away with. That two-headed one-party system, yeah? They just agree to everything. In Australia, same, you know? Or the most, you know, antediluvian
land of the free.
Laws.
Home is brave.
So much powerhouse democracy.
We're number one. You know,
really hard.
Hey, we were cooed and you got by you guys in 1975. So don't you do it? It's all your fault. No, it is actually, but yeah.
My superhero name is actually the Scapegoat.
Well, I know.
That's my superpower. You can blame all that shit on me. It'll
well, actually,
right off.
Then it comes back. We haven't got any Brits on today, but we could all bring it back to them anyway, couldn't we?
Well, of course.
You know. But yeah, that the Australian surveillance laws and metadata retention, and you know, like military can shoot their own people. You know,
dude,
yeah,
the let's make every government agency immune from charges and allow them to murder, beat, rape, whatever, whomever for any reason that we deem fit, it is just absolutely fucking like, why do people, okay, when you went to the anti-lockdown protest, did you hear anybody talking about these laws? Like, still, it hasn't made it all the way through, but like, people are aware of this shit and upset about it, and like, consciousness is being elevated in terms of because that's some
No, at
crazy
one of our
shit.
protests, no, they do talk about it, those, but you're not talking to people who, will believe it and they're on your side at an anti-lockdown protest. Those people would know about it. But when one day, remember, Jill, I was at Piccadilly and I said something like, what's happening to Julian Assange now, with the way that he's been tortured and the abuse of justice all down the line, is really happening to you now, because with the Spy Cops bill, the ability to rape, torture and murder people. So I was saying, as people were walking past me, family groups and everything like that, I was saying, the police, undercover police, can now go and rape you, murder you and torture you if they want. And children of 10 and 8 were looking around going, what's that lady saying? And the parents were just going, come on, darling, walk across the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
don't listen to her.
I added a little addendum. I said, it's hard to hear. This is a sad state of what our society is, has come to, and these things are we will have to overturn them if when they happen, and we'll have to get everyone in our family to like I started speaking to the kids then, like a teacher, because I felt that they were like, oh, that's hard to hear. I'm living in a world where my parents never told me, spy cops could rape, torture and murder me. And the parents were sort of almost closing over their children's ears. But, yeah, it's hard to hear, but they need to know. Everybody needs to know.
It's hard to hear.
I didn't feel ashamed of myself.
Like, it's the truth, and it's really gonna happen, unfortunately. Like, it can't be understated, not only the importance of that precedent, but also the precedent that could be established if Julian gets extradited. It's like, press are already being arrested in the US. 2 of my good friends who are members of the press were arrested last week on election night in downtown, along with members of the National Lawyers Guild. And people like don't think that this is going to happen. And now everybody's going out and they're saying, oh, well, it's because they're not real journalists. It's like, where have I heard that before? It's really not for, Sheriff Bitch Nueva to decide who is and who isn't a journalist, the same way it isn't for the U.S. government to decide that Julian is not a journalist either. It's like the precedents of this case are going to keep being used against us. That's why it's important, and that's why we're continuing to spread the word by any means necessary.
And
November 11th.
That's where Brazil went wrong when they went after Greenwald, because the precedent hadn't been set. They jumped the gun a little bit. And when you look at what is happening to Craig Murray, when you look at this BB4 series that is targeting Vanessa Beeley and Eva Bartlett and Ambassador Ford, with the real-time effects of the silencing of any journalist or publisher. It doesn't have to be Julian Assange. In this situation, it is, because that's how it played out, but it could be anybody else. Like, that is the entire breakdown of any sort of semblance of a democratic society.
That's it.
Yeah,
and
our
guy who got arrested, our guy who got arrested today, he did a body cam footage of 2 veterans being arrested on November 11, and then he did a speech at Speaker's Corner. A policeman pushed him out of Speaker's Corner. He was by himself, literally pushed him, made him walk backwards 100 meters to the footpath last week, Saturday, and then he said he's going to do another speech today. Jill, you were there. Tell us the story. What happened today with this speech?
Well, he was planning to exercise and speak. because you can go out to exercise, fresh air, walking, or some people are running, some people are cycling.
Yeah.
So he went to Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park to exercise and speak at the same time. And I arrived and I saw like 6 police vans there, and I saw all these police, but I saw no speaker. So I ran around so I wouldn't draw attention. So as I'm running, I'm trying to look sideways and backwards and say, where is everybody? I text the group to find out where is he. And everybody's like, well, I don't see anybody. There's a few other people wandering around just like I am. But at some point he got in there and gave his talk, and literally like within 5 seconds, they were just all over him. And he's quite a tall guy. He's about 6'5" or so. And they're literally.
Is this Joe?
No, Wilsey.
Wilsey.
He's out, but he's got a body cam, and he's been doing a lot of YouTube videos, body cam. Basically, came to us from like the Freedom group, but following us around and reporting a lot. So my point was on the reporting, who's a reporter, who's not a reporter, and that's his point. You know, he doesn't have, when he got arrested, when he got pushed, when the veterans were arrested, they were saying, you've got to go home too. And he said, no, I'm a journalist, I'm recording this, you know. And he said, they were saying, well, where's your card, kind of thing. And he said, you know, you don't need a card to be a journalist. Everyone's a journalist now. And, you know, they have to, everyone is kind of, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people going out independently now, a hell of a lot. And it's amazing. It's great. You know, it's brilliant. People going out and getting their own YouTube channels, getting their own equipment. At Australia House, where we do our Wednesday gig, you know, to protest outside the Australian High Commission there, I think we had 4 or 5 independent media there on that day to listen to us. And Wilsey has been doing that and running with us. And because he's been recording all of this stuff on his body cam, he's been targeted now. You know, but for a one-man speaker's corner is where you're meant to be able to go and speak. You know, that's what it's for. Yeah, one man speaking at speaker's corners, boom, they've just arrested him. Like, you know, it can't be illegal anyway, you know, like they've done it.
Yeah, basically anybody who's speaking now, anybody who's not saying the narrative that they want them to be saying, they're just going bananas about it and just taking you off the street. They don't want you to have that ability to inform people and say something different.
It's a sign of how effective it is now, okay?
Yes,
because
absolutely.
That Australia Day, I think 45,000 people saw us outside the Australian High Commission, which is big numbers for us because, you know, basically we were just taking it to George Brandis there. That's the object. You know, I didn't know he could hear us, but we found out he could, you know, because one day Wilsey captured him. I saw
your audio's cutting in and out a bit now.
It's fine for me. I think it's you, Steve.
Oh, okay. Then it's on my end. I just totally derailed that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So
when we were in DC, the first day that we were in front of the British Embassy, we were making so much noise that the Brits complained to the Secret Service, who provide security outside of that embassy, because directly next door is the vice president's mansion, which we didn't know until we got there. But there's like a military base and Mike Pence's house, or I guess Camillery's house, if they let them steal this election. So the Secret Service does the security there. So the Brits inside the embassy complained that we were making too much noise. And to the Secret Service's credit, they went, well, yeah, they're protesting. That's kind of what they're there for. You know, fuck afternoon tea, buddy. This is, you know, what they were nice enough to get a permit, you know, like, and so they just had to deal with it. And so we got louder, and came back a couple of more times.
Sounds good.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was the first day that we were there. We had some folks from Popular Resistance show up. I think somebody from Code Pink showed up. I'm not 100% sure on that. But it was much harder this time to get people from other organizations to come out and be a part of it with us, of course, because of COVID. Like but at the same time, that is issue dependent, because 2 miles away from where we were, there were, several hundred people, if not bordering on 1,000 or more, right in front of the White House, who were there for Black Lives Matter. But that is a party sanctioned protest. So it's okay.
Same here. Okay, outside Euston Station right now, you can go to that train station. It's a big station. You can catch trains to go to like Eurotunnel or something like Star or something like that. I think there's connections there. So it's a really, really mega big station. There is XR-styled campground out the front of it. I would say 30 or 40 tents, big ones, little ones, everything. Banners all along the side. I would say maybe 100 meters of fence, steel fence, gated fence, posted fence, banners everywhere. The earth climate is dying, pollution, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And there's people camping there. Must be about maybe 50 to 80 people camping there, I'd say, by the number of tents that are there. I saw them waking up because I drove past it today. And I went, what the hell is going on here? Camping is illegal because it's COVID. Protest is illegal because it's COVID. Here they are. November 11, when we went to the Cenotaph, which is the war memorial bullshit thing they've got in the middle of the road, they had it cordoned off with this fence, and the cops were on post there. They had a busload of cops there. We go to put our little sign up. It said, what did it say, Jill? It said, remember the innocents. Remember the innocents killed in war, And we had the WikiLeaks hourglass and yellow flowers, and it was like part of a global. We're trying to get everyone to do yellow flowers and war memorials and ribbons and raise the issue. Yeah. We got there. We tried to take a photo on the outside of their little fence they put around that cenotaph. And they tried to arrest us. They said, hello, madam, like you're the one that we did the other day. We're going to do you again now if you don't, and I had to start walking to avoid getting arrested a second time within a few days. And guess who had a poppy wreath on there? I think you can guess after I told you the Euston Station story. Fucking Climate Act Now. Poppy wreath. So, the cops, they're in bed there, they're in bed with the whole thing, XR and climate action and that. They made a poppy wreath, put it on that cenotaph. Did they get rid of it? No. Could we prop remember the innocence thing on the outside of the fence for 1 minute and take a photo of it? No. Toilets
this is why I've been trying to get Corey to come on the show, and I'm so grateful that she did earlier today, because there's this idea that Extinction Rebellion and Sunrise Movement and the leadership of Black Lives Matter are somehow still good organizations. And it's like, look, yes, go and find out for yourself. Yes, go do that. Go learn about it. But do it knowing that 95 being conservative there percent of activist organizations, especially the ones that turn into NGOs, those are fucking compromised. Be really careful about who you talk to and what you talk to them about, and the shit that Extinction Rebellion has been able to get away with.
It is confusing, isn't it? I mean, I couldn't believe XR was just so well organized. When I joined, and it's like you get all these information packs sent to you. You've got meetings. They give you 6 sessions that you're supposed to do all this training before you go out into the streets. I just thought, how do they get all these people to do all these trainings, to have all
When it
these
was
systems so
when it was still
structured?
legal to protest, they had one in Parliament Square. They had a food station. You would not believe the food they had on there. They had all manner of dishes, of vegan dishes that you could have with poppadoms, fruit juice, fruit smoothies. And they had, like you see, say a nice little Italian or French kind of, nice suave little village, and they have all those boxes of fruit outside those lovely kind of delicatessen stores. So beautiful polished apples, and then a beautiful box of big fuck off Valencia oranges, and then strawberries, and fucking kiwi fruit, and fucking pomegranates, and blah blah blah. Man, you could go up there and you could get yourself anything you wanted, and it was as rich, you wouldn't believe it. Oh, it was amazing. The food they had at XR, incredible. Like, well, I did once take hot chocolate when it was a cold day to one of our protests, but I'll tell you, they must have heaps of money, And when we do the Piccadilly, sometimes they get their little permitted things, and they're marching around with their Hare Krishna symbols and their whatever. I know they're not Hare Krishna, but some of them do have bells, and they do they get real hippie kind of, into the vibe. And so, as they're saying, I'm saying, yes, climate, the biggest, polluter. What is it? Do we know? Do we know what the biggest polluter? War is the biggest polluter. Biggest cause of climate change. Dispersal of people are responsible for, everything that's really bad, basically. But I say it in better words than that. And they sort of slightly turn around and go, "What do you say? War is the biggest polluter. Yeah. Who told you about the war? Yeah. Who should be supporting now? Yeah." And yeah. It really riles me, actually, because, there's so many people hoodwinked by it. So many people are hoodwinked by it. They think they're doing the right thing.
Well, and again, it comes back to, like, people want to be on a winning team. And it looks like when you've got, tens of thousands of people in the street on an AstroTurf movement, it looks like you might be winning. And it looks like something that you might want to be a part of.
Well, it's safety as well. There's a lot of people that are afraid to come out if you're not in a big protected group like that, because they don't know what's going to happen. So if it's very corporatized and sanitized like that, they feel safe. Whereas if they're exposed in a smaller group, a lot of people feel more vulnerable, and it's not so appealing to them.
Well, I mean, and you are more vulnerable, but it's at the same time, it's like knowing that fact, but not being afraid of it. Like not being like Black Lives Matter here in LA is like notorious for never protesting past sundown. So it's just like knowing that it's going to be dark. There's going to be sheriffs there, there's not going to be as many groups as us because we don't have the co-opted movement behind us to bring all their numbers and drum up support for that. It's knowing that, but not being afraid of it, not letting it stop you from just doing what's right. And it's
known here. Sorry, Gloria. It's known here as a dating scene, Black Lives Matter. So that's what you do to hook up. You go to BLM. Probably the same with XR, I'd say. It is a renowned dating kind of app.
Very social.
Protest app.
They do try and make it fun.
No, I'm not dissing it. I'm just saying, it's safe, and you can have fun there. But it's a dating vibe,
When you've got activist organizations that receive millions and millions of dollars from, like, if not the personal hand of George Soros, like one of his cutout organizations, or one of Richard Branson's organizations, that alone should give you pause. It should. Like, why is this organization receiving the support of, scumbag billionaires? Why? What is the purpose of this organization? What is it here to do? Are they pushing a candidate? Is that candidate one of the major two-party candidates? Maybe I need to rethink my participation in this particular organization. You would hope that
Totally.
people go through that process. You would.
Well, and people just need to take into like consideration the disturbingly rich history of just like COINTELPRO and major movements being absolutely co-opted. And it's like, do you really think that's not still happening to this day? Like, you really think that all that shit just stopped after the 70s and it just ceased to exist and all? And, you know, because all these organizations are headed by young people now. They're so inspiring now that they're suddenly good. It's like, no, movements, when they get large to a certain degree, they always get co-opted because that's just what history shows, unfortunately. And you have to kind of work with that, like with that little chip on your shoulder, just like, okay, this organization has a ton of money and a ton of support from mainstream as well. Maybe I should look at them more skeptically given what I've known throughout history. And people just don't do enough of that. It's annoying.
Perhaps we should write more things about it. You know, the history of co-op, you know, groups that have been co-opted and bastardized. But yeah, it's difficult. It's very difficult.
One of the, like, I've seen people try to infiltrate WikiLeaks activist organizations, but that doesn't last. It doesn't really work. Like, when your whole gig is informing people about the security state and the ways in which they operate and the manuals of training that they use for their informants, like, that's a pretty rough crowd to infiltrate. It is.
It is.
You know. And
I thought we were getting infiltrated one day when this really good-looking guy came to one of the things, and I was like, he was dressed in like a deconstructed dinner suit, and the top of the neck was open and everything, and everyone was standing on that, you know, on the steps, going, "Who's Alison talking to?" You know, and he was so good-looking. He was quite suave, and I thought, what are you talking to me for? You know, I'm immediately suspicious. And then he said, I've got an appointment. He kept on looking at his watch, and he had a proper, like, an old-fashioned watch on, not old-fashioned in style, but, you know, no one who wears a watch now. It wasn't a Fitbit though, and so I was impressed. And and then he was leaving. Okay, my job as a recruiter was to get his phone number. Okay, but of course I was off in he's good-looking land, and I forgot to get it. He was asking me for my phone number, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I should give it," kind of, like, you know. And I ended up writing like a web address or something on a piece of paper and giving it to him. And then he actually reached in for a kiss as he parting gesture, and it was so funny. Like, not on the mouth, just like on the cheek. But I was just like, "Oh my God, was he CIA?" You know, like,
that's hilarious. Look, there's to clear something up, because there seems to be a little bit of confusion in the chat. The reason that we're talking about this and talking about the co-opting of organizations is not to deter people from protesting or from being engaged or involved. It's to let you know that you need to be, like, conscious of the fact that incredibly large, well-funded activist organizations are more than likely compromised, and maybe your energy is better directed elsewhere.
And Steve, there's incredibly good-looking people that come up to you on the street. Sometimes they give you a kiss, which is a good reason to do Julian Assange support work.
Right? You know, that has yet to happen to me. It has.
Come on.
I have never once in my years of activism had an incredibly handsome man come up and plant one on me.
Oh, it'll happen. Yeah, I'm gonna dream about that tonight for you.
Well, we've been going for about 2 hours, and I feel like this is a good place to wrap it up. And I've got about 3 hours before I have to go do Rogue Ways, which should be fun. If you're not hip to Lindsay's show, it's wildly entertaining and informative. So I'll be on this evening at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. But ladies, I want to thank you so much for coming on, being on the show, and letting us know what's going on the ground in the UK, because we're largely, you know, largely focus on American issues. Try not to all the time. Try to make a point to not to.
Well, hey, yeah, it's everyone's issue. American issues is everyone in the world's issue, yeah?
Unfortunately, not because we want it that way, or not because
No.
I want it that way. But yeah, you know, you're
No.
right. No, the fucking puppet that gets selected for the office of president will affect you no matter where you are, and that's just a disturbing reality.
Yeah.
But
look, hey, thank you for having me on again.
Let
It's been
people
a
know
pleasure.
how they can find you. Let people know how they can find your activism, and if there's a way to support it, how they can best do that.
At Ali May 101, ALIMAY 101. It's the 101 on Ali May, but then they go 234 after that. So at Ali May 101 234 on Twitter. That is my only source of social media. I got an Instagram, Assange Collective. Actually, I lie. Assange Collective on Insta. And Piccadilly Circus every Saturday, 4 p.m. in the heart of London. Belmarsh Prison at noon on Saturdays. Always do that one. And take it up to the gates and shout as loud as we can. And Australia House in the Strand on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock.
3.
Thanks, Jill. 1 o'clock to 3. I'm very tired. I helped someone move house today. So
oh, that sucks.
Over to you, Jill. Thank you so much for having me.
I just want to say thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having conversation with people that have open minds and are willing to look with open eyes at what's happening. As you guys probably do, sometimes you get shamed by your friends, still saying conspiracy theories, still liberal, open-minded people in many ways, but still just thinking that we're causing our own problems if we're getting arrested by the police. And we shouldn't be doing this. What is this conspiracy theory stuff? It's quite wearing, you know, when your own friends oftentimes, you know, are like that. And you want people to do more of their own research, so you're not just telling them, you know, the words like they have to believe you. But it's really been a pleasure talking to you guys. You're so well informed. And Corey was just absolutely magical to listen to. I want to say just one thing that I took from hers that I thought was an important point for us all to remember. And she said, who's protecting the kids? You know, they're all being suffocated, wearing these masks all the time during their formative years where they form the people that they're going to become. They're thinking the world's a dangerous place and every human is to be feared, and that our bodies are germ temples and repellent and repulsive. And they're going to all have themselves, you know, vaccinated from here and back to the moon with so many vaccines full of poison. And the schools are all going to require them to have that, unless the parents want to join our communes and live outside the cities, outside the systems. These poor kids are really losing their childhood. And I really feel that that's, you know, quite an important thing to think about, not even just for yourself, but what's happening for the kids. So thank you so much, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. You've had some comrades in the chat here
Yes.
who've been talking you up quite a bit, and the rest of the chat seems to be quite enamored with both of you. So you're going to be invited back on at some point.
Oh, shucks. Thank you.
How about after my trial? Because I
Yeah.
have to go to court on December 30th.
Okay.
You know, because I am a criminal, the police say. I was assaulted them. So I didn't, not guilty, but I'd love to come back and we'll celebrate with
course.
some more stories, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Totes.
We'll plan for that. Well, that's gonna do it for us. Glory, what you got?
Seriously awesome to talk to you guys about, stuff happening with the London protest scene. Just because it is my belief that birds of a bootlicking feather flock together. So I'm fortunately not too surprised to see that the UK is taking on after its fellow powerhouse democracy, the US, and arresting protesters and criminalizing protests. So, but regardless, it's awesome to hear how you guys were fighting that. Like, I literally love hearing about just on the ground stuff because it's way better than like listening to horse racing ass cunts all day.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's
super cool backdrop too, Glory. I love your backdrop, man.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Glory has to show me up on the background every time we're on the air. That I've got like 5 that are in a rotation, and
I know. I like your woodland forest.
I mean,
I think they're both really good. I felt really bad
Yeah,
that I've
this is
just
awesome.
got books behind me.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
otherwise, you
I'm-
just see boxes.
I'm hoping that the more I incorporate imagery from the graphic novel Transmetropolitan, which is what that is behind me, that people will be like, "I wonder what the fuck that is," because it's just
Yeah.
wild, dude. It is basically like Hunter S. Thompson in the year 3000. As society is completely breaking down again.
And nobody even recognizes a tree.
Right.
But you can still smoke, man. You can still have a fag.
You can still smoke, and the drugs got weirder.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is an
That was awesome.
entirely different conversation that we should have at some point about like the rollout of, legal cannabis and legal psychedelics and even legal cocaine and heroin now in Oregon. Like the actual reasons behind that are much more dark than the marketing, which is pretty fucking true for everything that involves marketing. And with that, let me tell you about what's coming up on the show. I will be on Rogueways tonight. Tomorrow, Union of the Unwanted. So I will be on there with that whole cast of wonderful human beings. And the guest tomorrow for that show is Roger fucking Stone. So,
That'll be fun.
it may be my only appearance on Union of the Unwanted, but I will make it worth it. Very, very much looking forward to that. Tuesday, Garland Nixon will be joining us on the Free Assange Vigil. It is always wonderful to talk to Garland. He's my favorite former cop.
He's my only favorite former cop.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much that's about where I'm at too. And I don't know if we have anyone booked for Thursday yet. I don't. And then next week, I gotta find somebody for the morning because it's JFK Death Day, and we're going to do a JFK conspiracy theory roundtable.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of where it all started, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
100%. Yeah. My opinion, the murder of JFK, it was the CIA.
Yeah.
completely taking over all facets of government, and by extension media, and by extension academia, and by extension, just every fucking thing. Art. Jackson Pollock was a CIA fucking
No.
yes.
No. I didn't know that.
The whole modern art movement was conceived by some fucking eggheads in U.S. intelligence as a way to combat the realism that was coming out of communist nations. I'm not making that up. I'm not, dude. And Gloria Steinem, CIA asset.
Man, there's an Australian line on that. Our president that you cooed in 1970, he's not a president, prime minister, in 1975, Gough Whitlam. Okay, one of his controversial things was he bought Blue Poles, a great big fuck off splashy painting by Jackson Pollock. I think it was for $1.4 million or something like that. In those days, a lot of money. And then he got cooed in 75. So, woo, we should find out a bit of that, more about that. It's probably more to it, yeah.
Wow, you really ruined my night with that modern arts and CIA.
Where I'm getting that from is a book that I recommend often on the show. It's called Finks. The subtitle is How the CIA Tricked the World's Best Journalists. God damn it, catch up thing. Okay. And yeah, the author is named Joel Whitney. I highly recommend people read that book because it starts in about the mid 40s with the CIA taking over all of these European print and radio outlets, and of course Radio Free Europe. And he mentions fairly early on about the whole modern art being an intelligence operation to combat communist realism. Yeah. That's the fucking world we live in, where the CIA thinks that splashing color on a canvas without a purpose is what will beat the communists.
Fuck, man.
And with that,
we live in a cartoon.
Thank you, Joshy. Thanks, Sleepy.
No problem. See you,
Thank
Alison.
you.
Josh, thanks for the show with me. Please check out Rogueways. I just threw it in the chat. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Good luck to us all.
Free Julian Assange.
Love ya.